Hello and welcome to my channel. Well, this is just a temporary star right here because today sometime I'm taking her not to a farm or anything, but a person here in the compound who had a pet and lost it and has a little girl and everything. He's already paid the pet deposit, and you know, I talked to the manager, of the complex and told her that here's a fish, here's a fish. No, I didn't tell the manager here's a fish. I told her that this kitten, she's young and everything now, but she's female, and she's really a crazy little cat. But nobody could touch her. She's elusive and everything, and it took a while. I was using that string to work with her, but now, where she was staying was underneath the picnic area, and it's been used before by other cats as like a litter box. And so it's where you barbecue and everything. And so if you stand there by the thing it smells like you're standing over a litter box. And I wanted to clean that up for her, not for any. I'm even going to be able to avoid probably totally the pet deposit and the rent increase and everything, because I'm going to go through the process of making Scrappy an emotional support animal or service animal or whatever, because he I'm not extinguish myself type of person, but I had reached the point where if the world was going to do that, or if a natural disaster caused that, I wouldn't panic. I'd be, like, well, when I go, everybody else is going to go too, so, nothing you can do about it. That was a wide angle, and I can switch the light on and off with 1, but not at 0.5, so that's why I stopped. But anyway, she's going to be the backdrop of why I'm explaining, because I'm in a manic mode. I'm going to take some of this, and hopefully that'll work, because I'm on the longest streak of... Get your fish. I'm on the longest streak of not having any sleep. I had 1 hour sleep last night, because she was in here. And, she's so cute and everything. She was sitting there purring, and I got close to her, and I thought, I didn't have my glasses on. I just got close to her, and she must have seen the movement, of my eyes behind my eyelid, because she popped me and it stuck. But I didn't react. I was like, oh, that was a bad idea. Maybe I'll sit back here. And she didn't really mean to do it, because when she's playing with her fish, she'll get wild. But when she's, when she knows she's with a human, she'll pull her claws back. And when she bites, she won't bite hard. And she's basically adopted me. But because I didn't know where she was going to be going, I used that mouse on a string to teach her which trees to climb in case a dog came or something happened where you had to get away. Because the one that's right in front of the apartment, it's too straight up. And she just didn't have the strength. She'd get about halfway. And that's why I was encouraging her whenever she's trying to climb. If she got, it's like, good girl. But I'd put that mouse in the crotch of the tree that's kind of sloped like this, and I'd make it, you have to imitate it, it's harder. It looks like it's easy, but you can't make noises. Like Chad has a personality that if he coughs or he talks, she just wants to run, And I said, I'm not trying to change your personality or anything, but that's not the way animals react. And all along, I thought Chad was just a regular civilian person, mainly because of the way he was acting, and I saw also the way he puts out cigarettes. If you've ever been this is what I always thought, man. If you've ever been in the military and had to police your butts, you would never just stomp and leave a black stain, right out there. He was drunk. He didn't give a shit, But I thought right there, what Chad was was somebody that had never served in any capacity, like EMS, police, military, anything like that. Somebody was basically he was living with his mom, currently right there. So it's like, some privileged person think the world owes him, mommy still owes him, you know, in the way he's going to get through life is scamming people. I don't like people like that. And when we confronted each other, I told him, I feel like you're pissing on me, and I don't like to be pissed on. And so we came to an understanding. Like I told him, like I screwed up when I didn't define the conditions well enough, because I thought I was giving or selling the scooter to Mary, which I was, and the terms were, whenever you come up with the money. So I didn't have any time limit because I thought it was just going to be her, and she's living right below. I didn't know that Chad was going to be there and using it constantly and having enough money to drink beer. We talk about this, because we're friends now. But that just annoys me. I felt like I was being played. Well, he's a Marine. That explains everything. I've forgiven him even before I knew that. Even before I went through this phase that I'm going through. Let me focus on her so you can see something. I got over that. I was not going to hold a grudge, and that's another thing. This is a lot. This might be a long video, but I've been running at the mouth constantly, like somebody that's on the M1 that makes you hyperactive or whatever. And I don't do that. I don't do that stuff, but I know how people are. I've been around people like that. But this is all because of lack of sleep, oxygen deprivation to the brain, and my mind racing, because the trap that I've been in is of my own making. It's kind of like it ties up to lockpicking. The challenge lock that someone gave me is not from someone else. It's of my own making. There's no way you're going to escape from that lock unless you unlock it yourself. No amount of therapy or anything else. When you put yourself in a box, and my box was, I'm already introvert and kind of antisocial. No more. That is gone. I'm telling you, it's gone. I started doing that when I worked at Ratco, when Shavera, a black female coworker of mine, we were real good friends. It was never sexual, but not for lack of just flirting around and potential. Woo, it could have, Not for, if it would have, I would have been fine with it, And that was my problem. I fell in love with her, and she's just like, let's just have a good time and, go to place. That's when I went to the, the bar. I don't remember what it is. It's in Dallas, but it's for like transgendered, gay, and everything. And I don't have any problem with that. I mean, people of that lifestyle. But people are trying to warn me that, you might be attracted to a woman and might not really be a woman, so you better watch out. Man, it's not as good as, this wasn't that long ago, but I mean, it was obvious. It was like if a man who had a beard put on a dress. Back then we called it cross-dressing, but they were not gay. These are, who knows? But I was just there to enjoy myself. But at the one part they go through, and I didn't know what twerking was. I had no idea. See, if the way you become old is you stick in your ways and you do not evolve. Like you can talk about it musically, you can talk about it traditions, the way you were raised. If you just keep doing that, I'll give you an example. My grandfather was racist. My father was racist. I saw how stupid that is. And I decided I'm going to stop this. It serves no purpose. I'll give you an example, and I won't use I'll just say the N word. But we lived in Houston. I remember this is 60s, so civil rights was going on, in 70s. What is she after? I started doing the. Oh, you looking at that big? I got a big bed here, girl. Nobody wants to use it. Everybody turns it down. Look at that. Big cat bed. Nobody likes it. I bet she likes it. She wants to stretch out on the... You be wherever you want. I'm going to get back to this. This is rambling, but it applies to stuff. All right, so once I found out that Chad was Marine, there's a camaraderie between people of all branches of service that hey, even if you're an asshole, we're going to forgive you, because Marines are supposed to be. They're not supposed to be cordial people. They're the shock troops, basically. They were the ones that go in when things are not going well for the regular army or whatever. They send them in, and they're part of the Navy because, it used to be you had to go overseas to do it. She's checking it out. The time when Shadow went to touch it, he jumped back. He jumped right out of it like, I even threw catnip in there. He would not use it. I started using that as where to put my head when I'm stretching up my spine. It's real soft. I mean, it feels like real fur, but it's something that's probably made in China and some kind of chemical in there that freaks them out. But if another animal, we don't have a cat anymore in our perspective here. Oh shit! I've been doing a lot of that, knocking stuff over. Water. Last night I knocked all these pictures that I did of the live stream, dropped them all over the floor. Then I dropped a bottle of water all over it. Then I went to pick it up, and I knocked another bottle of water over it. And some of it is because I got a knife on my hip, and it's sticking out, and it bumps into things. That's part of it. But anyways, getting back to the knife content, Chad likes knives. All right, so here's somebody who's also got issues. I mean, he's going to BA, and he's like with me. He served, but he didn't serve in a combat role or anything. I was in the Cold War, but we knew people that either died while we were there or died after, and shit happens to even people that are not in the military. I'm an example of that. The first example I gave in the live stream the other night of going after my older sister's husband that said he knocked her out. I was in high school. I was a teenager, It could have been, if I had to use lethal force, a juvenile, I would have gotten out when I reached 18 or whatever it is. That's just the way it is, but it would have been self-defense because I was like 100 pounds maybe. Because when I went and had a weight waiver, I'll also give you a knife to look at because we're going to get back to talking about knives. I had a bucket of knives. I've been just throwing knives out and talking about it in pictures, and I've just been opening up about everything because part of my job is keeping secrets. And the best way to keep a secret is tell no one. And the best way to tell no one is don't talk about anything. Don't talk about your service. Don't talk anything you're trying to just like be reclusive about. If you watch that live stream last night, it's kind of like some crackhead cornered you in the parking lot and just went on and on about stuff, and you didn't want to be rude to him, but it's just jumbled sentences that just joined together. I'll get back into it. I'll get the final point, but all of this is because I don't know when I've lost count of it now, but I had an hour of sleep last night, but in a week, I've only had like maybe 7 hours of sleep total, not all at once, total. I've never gone that long without sleep. I know what happens to you, especially as you get old. It's not good for you. That's how you get dementia and stuff. Your brain repairs itself when you go to sleep. Your body repairs itself. I know this. I can't stop it. I get ready to go to sleep, and I think about something I should have been doing now that I'm, before I almost to the point of like black hole sun. I was in this point like on my birthday there was an eclipse, and I played Black Hole Sun. It came right over us and hit it right over it on my porch. We were I was concerned about people, knowing about my location. Again, paranoia or worry. I don't care now. The only thing about that is if somebody like in your apartment complex knows where you live, then they know exactly what you've got, and anytime you go to the grocery store or something, they can rob you. Well, you know how you prevent that? They're all your neighbors and your friends, and they're not going to do that to you. You keep your door locked, you still take precautions. Somebody tries to come in at night without knocking on the door or climbing the balcony, they get blasted, friend or not. I don't know who you are creeping around out there, and that's why one of the guys here, I'm not going to dox him and say his name, but was saying that crap about, he kept bugging me on Instagram all the time saying, hey man, when's time going to drop by? I said, no man, really, I got issues about people dropping by. I don't mind having people come over, but look, I have a lot of issues, and I'm telling you all of them now, why I was so reclusive. And that's because one of them is, and you may have figured it out by now or not, I don't have all of my teeth in my head. Now, when I joined the military, I had one cavity. And throughout most of my adult life, I was fine. But when I was 50, I met a Native American girlfriend who was 21, and she was into that more refined type of stuff. And I was more into the chill back, and they were saying, you don't want to come into this room. And they were right. But she got me into that, and then I started doing it, but I did not like it. And because I was working at Intel, it wasn't like I just became, okay, I'll say a crackhead. It wasn't like I just became a crackhead and had to do things. I was working at Intel, and I was doing it on the weekends. And then even then you could kind of justify it as, well, we had 12-hour shifts, So if you just did a little bit here, you work harder. And that's, it's bad. It's really bad. I'm saying I'm not condoning it. Here, picture this. A house with only me in it and a chair facing the stove, facing the oven. If you don't know what that is, you're going to look, that's odd. What's going on? Are you tired while you're cooking? Yeah, I'm tired while I'm cooking, but it ain't what you think I'm cooking. It's secrets. You have to keep things secret. Well, I didn't know this, but if you do that, it destroys your enamel, and you're not right away in your teeth. So while I was in New Mexico, I only lost one tooth, a canine or something like that. Well, I was unemployed. Poverty will also cause you to lose teeth, and people judge the crap out of you. Why don't you do a facial one? Well, during the pandemic, would have been fine. The pandemic was actually fine for me because I could, in every picture before, I used to smile and laugh and stuff like that. Now, you're going to say, well, you got VA or something. I didn't know that. I didn't know I had VA capabilities. When I got out of the service, only if you were career military, 20 years, like my dad and stuff, did you have medical after you got out. After the Iraq War, they realized that veterans were getting screwed up, and even though they didn't serve a career, they were in wartime. What the hell? You got to support them somehow, and they just grandfathered everybody in. I still didn't go. I still haven't gone. And my buddy, AJ, that I met on a PlayStation Network, he kept telling me, well, I can hook you up. I know where he is. Let's Fort Hood. And it was fun. But we never did that. And he was basically using me to do stuff, he's still a friend, but it'd be like he didn't know how to do anything. He would just sit there and want to smoke and chill and everything. And I said, come on, you wanted to do, what we were going to do was side jobs. At the time, I was getting out of Ratco, and I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I didn't want to work for a company, and I didn't mind hooking up with somebody, even if I didn't know him. I knew him from gaming. I knew what type of person he was. He's the type of person that would figure out a hack in Zombies, Call of Duty Zombies, where you stay in a wall. And it's kind of justified because with zombies, it's just how many levels do you survive before you die. So, the odds are already against you. So if the team does their shit right, you can get really high levels. Well, he'd get greedy and he'd jump out of it and not tell anybody. And then all of a sudden the next round would start and nothing happened. And crap hits the fan. So, I kind of knew he wasn't to be relied on. But I forgive him also. And you know why? Because he was in the Army. He was in Iraq. Yeah, it was Iraq, not Afghanistan. And he was outer scout for a platoon or whatever. And they didn't have any up armor Humvees, so he started putting sandbags underneath the seat and up on his windshield and stuff like that. And he drove over an IED. Well, like I said, he was messed up. Well, I didn't tell you. I jumped into something else on the live stream, but I said, this guy's driving along down, heading towards Fort Hood on the freeway, and he's texting. He's trying to text and drive, and I'm sitting there, and it's my life too. And I said, dude, all you got to do, you can sit there. It's not accurate, but just do voice. Turn on the microphone, and you can talk. And then he was very good because he knew how to phonetically talk, And I said, hey, when you want to say period, just say period, and then it'll put one in there, if you want to get fancy with it. But it prevents you from having an accident, because if you're texting, it happened to me too. I almost wiped out somebody else. I think I would have survived, but I drifted out of my lane because a friend of mine, most Native Americans, I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff, like I said, that's secret. And one of them is, it's not legal in Texas. All right, it's legal in a lot of other states. It's not legal. As a matter of fact, they want to ban all forms, even hemp. All right. So all through my life, anytime you wanted to enjoy herbal remedies or anything, you had to be sneaky. It wasn't like now. I would climb up on top of the garage because I knew my dad wasn't going to come out there. And my mom was cool enough. She would say, "Bill, you better put that joint out. Your dad's going to be home soon." Okay, Ma. Because Dad did not understand. And we had a confrontation one time. My brother-in-law, the one that eventually knocked out my sister, he was actually a dealer in that. And I left the stash. The way you carried stuff was you stuck it in your underwear. When I went in the bathroom and I took my baggie out and I left it on the counter, I spaced it. I forgot. I don't know if I was high then, but I forgot about it. And he ratted me out to Dad. And then that was a dad confrontation, and he goes, you know what marijuana does to you? And I said, it supposedly messes up your short-term memory, but I don't know about that. It was a joke, I knew exactly what it's like reefer madness, all the fear and everything. Really, all along, I didn't understand that I was taking medicine. I believe it's medicine because for a drug, you have to do things with it, with chemicals. Now, I'm going to declare this is pre-recorded, so I'm just going to mention all this stuff. I'm going to mention the words, and if it violates YouTube guidelines, watch it quick before it gets strike. And I can afford one strike. Oh, the cat disappeared, so we got to pull knives out again. But I'll get back to that. But I'm trying to stay on track with the story. So it was just marijuana, and it wasn't really high grade. It was in Houston. It wasn't that much. It was like $10. That's how you measure it. 4 or 5 finger baggie. It stems and sticks, maybe 4% potency. But it messed us up pretty good. We had fun. And our area was really like a farm, but it was recreation acres. And we were considered hood rats. They always called us recreation because we were hood rats. Because in the boom of oil and everything, rich kids came up and nice subdivisions came up. And Klein High School changed from a country school to, it was improved a lot, but we were considered, the country hicks. This is Houston, man. It was before it was incorporated, but it was northern Harris County. Man, I look at it on Google Maps, and I don't even recognize the place. Place where I wish I had those pictures. I had a 110 camera, and I would go through. Let me pause this for a second. All right, I figured since the cat wasn't here, she was just doing something else, I'd start having something you can relate to, which is like photographs while I'm rambling, because a lot of times this doesn't seem coherent. At least you can have some visual information. All right. The job I was in the military was electronic warfare systems. All right. And this particular technical order covered, I put this on with a label maker, B-52, D, C, E, and F models. The only model of B-52 that's flying right now is the H. 1975 was the time I went in. This was at Carswell Air Force Base, which is no longer there, so you'll see some pictures. I'm not going to flip through this. It's probably fine. I'll show you part of it, like here. If it was classified, down here would be marked classified. Let me get to that. All right. So this is the place where Shawana, my girlfriend, and I met. Well, not met, went to, because I knew this guy. He worked at Intel, and he was near me in Rio Rancho. And man, Native Americans, man, they are such. If you talk about stereotypes and stuff, picture in mind what you think a Native American would live like, because a lot of them live on reservations, and you would think not. It depends on which tribe you're in. Navajos got screwed over. They're kind of like the homeless tribe and everything. But this is me in basic training. There's nothing wrong with my teeth there. I had all my teeth. But see, we only had the pickle suit. This is my little sister Pam. Look, Mansell, U.S. Air Force. See, no camouflage. We stand out like a sore thumb. They were more into marching and all this other crap. I want to be a cowboy. Here's Billy, Ginger, Bob, that's my dad, and Pam, that's the back of her head. Diana sent me a lot of these pictures. She's my older sister. You'll see her in here. All right, that's Dad. That's Grandma Bryant. She had a stroke. She was paralyzed on her right side, and she was right side dominant, so she had to learn how to write everything on the left side. I always thought that Granddad just died. Grandpa Bryant just died before her. But no, according to Mom and Diana, he left her. Left her with the kids. He went off. I don't know. It's just weird stories, about life. But that's my mom, and this is Grandma Mansell. Now, if anyone... she looks young in this picture. If anyone's going to go to heaven, she's the one. All right, when Mom and Dad retired, he would go up to Arizona. We'll do this thing in stages, but now I got Wi-Fi, so we're going to see how long a big file takes to upload, and I'll just leave this at a manageable length. You can pause it or watch it later, and we won't have to do a bunch of part twos if it works out. It's an experiment. But this is in New Mexico or Arizona. But they would go for turquoise and stuff like that. He was into... This is an old one. Oh, wow. That's Dad. That's me. Fishing. Fishing is in my life. That's Pam. Sometimes Diana wrote... She put a number on it. September 1961. I was born in 57. 58. I gotta have all my fingers. 9... 60. I was 4 years old. That's me when I was 4 years old. So if I was 4 years old, Pam's 3 years younger. She was only 1 year old. Dad, I couldn't calculate his. But see, he's kind of lean and tough. He took no shit. I think he was into boxing at one time. As an aside, after I got back from Korea, I remembered, I learned how to defend myself, and I remembered the spankings and the switch. One of my first memories of my dad, really, was running from him in Michigan because he had a switch in his hand and said, "Come here." And he said, if you run, it's gonna be worse. And I ran and dodged. I didn't get away, but I was like, what a terrible memory to have. Your first memory of your father, they're chasing you down and want to harm you. You don't know why. You crapped in your pants. You did something wrong. I don't even have very many memories. This is when my memories just first start to form, and I get that. but that's just that generation when kids did things and you could corporal punishment them all you wanted. All right, that's the right-hand wall. There were terrace properties, so there was a corner right here, and there was a property. It was a little bit higher. Then there was this one. Then the property next to me was a little bit lower. So when you looked out the back, you really didn't see houses and stuff because there was a big drop between their wall, like more than 10 feet. But that's part of my only house I owned. I had a big patio, and it goes further back. I might find more. All right, this is me when I was in, just jacking around, doing one of those poses. We were not authorized to wear this. I just put this stuff on when I could, which was because I didn't like to have to wear a green pickle suit all the time. I had a 30-30 and a 45 in my pocket. That was in Louisiana, and I was living off base for a while at a buddy's house, and he would take pictures of me. All right, here's a B-52. We were working on a B-52G model. So they had these low-light cameras here that they could do. We had stuff up in the nose that we had to pop. Some of these are receiving antennas. These are emitter antennas. Used to be you couldn't even show these because they could figure out what frequency you are on from them. But like I said, they aren't even flying this plane before anymore. And this is like 1970-something. So, I mean, if I'm divulging any secrets, do something about the president who puts stuff out in public. Anyways, now this, if I'd have been caught taking these pictures and the OSI found me, yeah, I could have gotten into real trouble because this is inside Bentwaters, where that UFO stuff. This is why I didn't get to see anything going on, because inside a secure area where you have to cipher, we were working on stuff. And here's me on a B-52, and there's some heavies. There's some heavies, and I'm always doing goofy stuff, but you can see a B-52 back there. And it's these step bands, so most people work on the stuff would sit here, and your equipment would sit there. All right, so when I joined the military, like I said before, that's me. I would do, like I said, crazy shit. I'd go upside down on this part right here and try to do a handstand. I mean, just safety first. When I got to Carswell, there was a guy driving the step van, and he had non-regulation. He was from Vietnam. He had a non-regulation Marine hat on. The Air Force didn't like that. Marines' hats were peaked, and his wasn't the official one. And he was driving along, and I was sitting in the back, and he goes, "Are you cool? It's hot as fuck out there." Well, this is not air conditioning, but that was a code for, "Do you smoke?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I mean, we're on a base." He goes, "No problem." Pulls behind he's driving, fires one up and passes it back to me. And here I am on a SAC base. And the drivers, driving around like, okay, well, I guess not doing weed for 6 years was out of the question, since this is Lost Maples Forest when I decided to go hiking, and I decided that a 67-pound pack and only a mile trek was no problem. The walking stick and all this other stuff. All right, so this is a limo that Diana rent. That's a curb, but my mom was getting smaller. An old school limo. We're going to take her and let her gamble on her birthday. And that was in Albuquerque. Dad fishing again. There's Diana, Pam, me, and Dad. Now, because I'm being public, I don't know if you can show faces, but these are all my... Dad's dead. Diana doesn't care. Pam doesn't care, and I'm the one doing this video. So I'm not showing faces of anybody that, because YouTube's got this thing about children and identities of people and everything. So I worked when I got out of the service, I went and I was living in a trailer behind my mom's house, but I dug the old septic tank, and Diana said, "Hey, we're going to go to San Antonio and open up a rifle and pistol range and everything. Well, not open it, but take over one. Would you want to do that? And like, hell yeah, that sounds like a perfect job. And it was. Of all the jobs, I can tell you there's only two that compete. The first one is my entire experience in the military, good and bad. That taught me so much. The second one, I got paid $4 an hour for this one. I wanted to pay back my wife for support me for like 6 months and let me goof around in England. Even though I had dual citizenship and I didn't know it, I could have used it. I could have gotten a job if I wanted to. Then I thought I was an American citizen. I worked at this range, so I got a 22 pistol here. I've got a knife and another one. But this is the Smith & Wesson 3913 double action. And it was the same gun that I was going to double tap myself with. So I'd like to say right now, I have been suicidal before. I am not suicidal now. I have learned my lesson. Good or bad, whatever life has to offer, even if it's a slow, painful death, I'm going to try to put up with it. But now, I got friends. Instead of it just being people to remember me. I'm not going to live forever, but I'm not going to take my own life because I learned the lesson. And the lesson was, let me see if I can, this is Houston again, and some more gun pictures. Let me pause this. See, I had the B-52 TO up there. The lesson was, when you're in pain and you feel like, this is she was, when you say, till death do you part, and I believed all this other stuff. She was like the best friend. It was like for the first, 5-6 years, it was like what you would expect a marriage to be. She had my back, I had hers, we could count on each other. We both worked in ECM on that. So until yesterday, her and I were the only people that have ever even knew that I had this. And that's because I didn't know if it was classified or not, even though it said it was. And the way you keep a secret is tell no one. But now the secret's out and it's not even secret. It's not even classified. But keeping that knowledge in, I can keep a secret. I can keep a secret for forever if I have to. The secrets that they told me in the military safe, and you know why? I forgot them all. I couldn't tell you the frequencies even if you tortured me, The memories fade, man. And that's the only reason why I had this. It's not to sell it to anything or to the enemy to gain any knowledge or information, It was because I like to remember what I worked on and what I did. Not that I'm going to repair it, but I like to look at the equipment, say, all right, this is transmitter, this is a power supply, that's the control box, And these things right here were put in the most inappropriate place to get to, and you not only had to get them, you had to safety wire the connectors closed. And it's just a little hole in a thing, and guess what? That breaks through when people make it too tight. So you had to use a radiator hose clamp and use that to safety wire on. And your safety wire had to be so many turns per inch because we had QC. So, SAC had its act together, and we had human reliability program. So, if they would have found out that I was using anything or I was acting quirky, they didn't want me around nuclear weapons. And because what I worked on, aircraft sometimes were on the alert pad, I've got all kinds of interesting stories, especially about the time I had an M16 aimed at my back because you get issued a different badge. I'm going to get back to what I'm talking about. You get issued a different badge when you go to the alert pad, and you've got to give a password. And the shack asked me, I was coming up to an armed nuke with guards up there, and they wanted to see, because there was a two-man crew, so and there was two officers, two enlisted, two officers. So it was me and this other guy, and we were going to work on some equipment. So I was a sergeant. It was like, they wanted to make it a secure area, and the most qualified people to work on this stuff. They didn't want some doofus in there. And we were going to be, people were going to watch us repairing and stuff, so we couldn't just sneak off and sabotage the aircraft or whatever they thought we were going to do. I don't know. Take off with it. I don't know. B-52 isn't that easy to fly. But anyways, it is once you get it in the air. These are some of the guns that I had. This is the dog. This was Grandma that's guaranteed to go to heaven if there is one, because she believed it fully. And that's all she did. Her eyesight was getting so bad. I mean, she probably lived another 10 years. She lived to be 100 and something. So did my grandmother. One lived to be 101 and one lived to be 100. That ain't going to happen for me, I know. This is Houston. When I got out, I had money from separation and everything, and so I started buying guns. That's a Mini 14 that I did my own, a Ruger Mini 14 that I did my own modification to as far as like camouflage, and I bought the folding stock. And that's not a bad gun. I liked it. Shoots a 223, I like it. But it's a piston-driven. A Detonix 45. Man, if I'd have kept some of these guns. And that's a Remington 870 12 gauge. That gun was buck and slug would both shoot point of aim at the distances, and it was rare to get that to happen. Usually one would be good with a slug. It was smoothbore, and one would be good with buck, but it wasn't, it was like, I think, improved choke. I won a competition with that one when we were three-gunning. One person had a shotgun, one person had an automatic pistol, semi-automatic pistol, and one person had a revolver. And you had we had bowling pin games. And if you cleared your table, you could clear your other person's table, starting with where they were having difficulty with. And I was on the end. And so if I cleared my table, I could sweep that way, because you didn't want to cross over to someone. And we won because it was at the range. It wasn't like some national competition, There was just a bunch of people. This is Bopey. He's that crazy cat that I didn't name him. It was my second wife, her son, and he contacted me while he lives here near something, and he was saying, "Man, I really owe you, for everything." I said, "You don't owe me anything. That was my responsibility, to treat you like a son." And I knew I couldn't discipline, so I just wanted to, hey, you want to go fishing? You want to shoot guns? I mean, whatever a dad is supposed to do. I didn't know. I stepped into it too. He was 16 and I was the stepdad, But this cat was cool. Man, he had a personality. I love that cat. He got me with the old belly thing. He if he got annoyed, he would make sure you knew about it. But he held a grudge. He was on the bed when my second wife and I were finished with our activities, and it was in the morning, and I was going to get up, and I guess I had taken his spot or something. He was pissed. I bumped him with the foot. I don't know, but he went up a little ways, and he flopped over like, pet my belly. I'm like, oh, what a cute little cat. And he got me good. I'm like, oh, you sneaky little guy. But anyway, let me get back to... all right, that's Donald. I don't mind naming this guy because he's lucky to be alive. And that's my little sister, and that's Diana, who he knocked out, and that's me being crazy. All right? This wasn't too far away from the incident. Look at the size difference between him and me. And you know what made me equal to him? 9 shots of 22 and the determination to, you better stop. You better not be messing with my sister or I'll stop you. I don't care how big you are. That's trauma. When you could off somebody It's easy to pull a trigger. It's very hard not to pull a trigger when you're justified in doing so. Uh, but we had a good time. We went to different places. I had a motorcycle. She'd ride on the back sometimes. And I'm going to cut this off because I hear Chad down there. I want to talk to him. There's Sasha again. I had another dog named Cleo that was a rattlesnake hunter. But this is the one that one eye was one color, one eye was the other. And my first pair of cowboy boots that I bought, she was inside the house. And I said, now don't you do anything, because she wanted to be around me all the time like a cat and stuff that do. And I went in to get a beer or something, and I came back and I saw a boot doing like that, and I said, you better not have been chewing on my boot. And sure enough, right at the toe of the boot, she had punctured it. And I said, okay, that's it, you're outside. You're not an indoor-outdoor cat. I mean, the indoor-outdoor dog, but I love that dog. That was cool. Let me go back to Tom. This is me in Korea. That's the type of jacket I survived the cold weather in when I almost died. It's a knockoff. It's not as thickly, and this is one of my Yobo girlfriend. See, this is me practicing to be a motorcycle guy. And that's me in, we'll leave it at this. This is me in New Mexico. Not New Mexico, San Antonio. That gate right there is where I stepped out. That table is where I was going to off myself. And what stopped me from doing it, I don't know, but it was the voice in my head of Beavis and Butthead. And he said, you dumbass. And I realized what I was doing, trying to off myself. What was it going to hurt? Not the girl that was two-timing me. As a matter of fact, it'd make it more convenient for her. Shouldn't have to deal with all this stuff. Oh, he offed himself because of me. How noble, I'm that powerful, In the meantime, this is the bowling pin thing. In the meantime, my mom, my dad, and both of my sisters would have spent the rest of their life saying, why didn't we see the signals? He showed signs of distress. We weren't there for him, and tortured him for the rest of their life. I mean, may have caused them to end their life too. And because of what? Because I was in pain and I wanted to end it. Well, man, pain is a part of life. And yeah, you get dealt some bad blows, but offing yourself is not the answer. Even if you don't have parents, there's somebody that cares about you somewhere out there. It may just be a neighbor you say hi to or something like that. And it could be on the edge. And this is another thing. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I voted Republican before. This is where the Democrats lose me. They always want to do gun control. And my thought about that is, man, I like all the social stuff you're talking about, and equal opportunity and treating everybody equal. But when you start saying that there are 300 million Americans and we've got more guns than we have people, what person who owns guns is only going to have one? It's not like you're stockpiling. Different guns have different purposes. This is a squirrel gun. This is for hunting dove. What are you? What is the government to say how many guns you can have? The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Infringed means fucked with, all right? And the militia was every able-bodied person, all right? It was not an establishment of the military, because they got a separate one in that in the Constitution, how to establish that. So it was not that. It was not about the National Guard, because there's another one about the National Guard. It was about the right of the people to keep and bear arms. And you say, well, yeah, times change. You can't do that. All right, then. When the Constitution was written, we didn't have electronic anything, so your rights don't apply to that, huh? Freedom of speech? Oh, that only meant, like, if you're in a public place, with a microphone, but not over the internet. See, I'm going to have a lot of rants. I still can rant. That's my mom when she lived over there. She broke her hip because That's the assisted living. This is right before she was always coloring her hair a weird color. She's funny as hell, man. If you met her, you would think she's a. Sorry, I had to pause that. I was talking about mom, and I couldn't handle it. Anyways, I've got people I can talk to. I mean, if anything happens, I've got fellow veterans. 2 Marines, and it's same with them. Whatever they're dealing with. Any way I can help them. Oh, she's such a cute kitty, huh? She's a cute kitty. She got her little fish. She got a fish, and she got her string, and she can kick it and bite it. She's cute. She's such a cute girl, huh? She's going to her real home, her forever home, as soon as the guy works night shift, and it's, I don't know, what time is it? I lose track of day, 3:30 p.m. So he'll wake up pretty soon, and when he does, I can physically carry her. It's in like building 1, and I'm in building 2. I can just put her in my coat here and carry her to him, because she trusts me that much. And I can pick her up and carry her for short distance, as long as there's like no loud noises and stuff like that. However, I also have a pet taxi. I think putting her in a pet taxi would traumatize her more than me carrying her. So I can just do a 2-coat thing, Turn the light on. What does this thing know? I can't turn the light on. There we go. I look for the fleas, and I haven't seen any. Get this. Get up. It's just gonna bite you. And the string. Don't forget about the string. But I've got a lot of videos of me training her. I'm basically trying to get her domesticated. First, you have to get them used to a human, and then they can accept more humans. Chad was thinking, because she was born on the back porch and she came out, that he could pet her or touch her or something. But Chad's a Marine, all right? So they can't be like quiet, and they're always loud, and especially been drinking. And that's not a diss against them or anything. That's just, it's nature, It's just, that's why when I found out, when he said he was talking, military people can tell each other by the way, either the way they phrase things and stuff. And he hadn't said anything, but then all of a sudden he said something that was like, what was throwing me off is, I told him about this today, I said, I told your mom, I said, well, that's a sign right there that nobody's ever been in the military, because if you've ever had to field strip a cigarette and police butts, you would never just toss a cigarette on the ground and then stomp it with your foot and consider that extinguished in civilian life, no matter how long ago. It just, some things are ingrained in you, and it takes you a long time to change it. Like, you always take your hat off when you enter a building. Well, when you're a civilian, hell with them. You take a hat off when you want. Always take a hat off. All these other things that you would do in the military. But anyways, that explains a lot. That explains everything, basically. I didn't have any kitty litter. I did have a kitty litter pan, but it was going to rain last night. The husky came through, and I didn't want it to be snatched, after all this training. And I basically fall in love with the little girl, and she likes me. And I'm going to put up the videos, but I had like kitty soccer going on, where you take these eyeballs and she plays around with them. And then I taught her which tree is a safe tree to climb, by using a little mouse. And at first she was going only partially, and then she would go further. And it was like a daddy, coaching his kid. Good girl. Good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. Oh, I call her Kiki. But that's why I was out there cleaning the picnic area and everything, is because I don't want her to have to live in that. It smells like The problem is it smells like a litter box, right where you're going to do your barbecue and everything. And it's not because of her, it's because of all the stray cats from before. So Sunday I just decided nobody tells me what to do. I'm going to go out there and do it without permission. I'm gonna move the hose around if I have to. I used a little scooter that's like a mule. I'd lapped the big 50-foot water hose on it, disconnected it, went over to another connection that I know, not the one in front that should be working. That one's messed up, but over by John's faucet, it works. And I strung it out there, and I went all the way through, and it was about 10 feet short. So rather than just give up, I then, since it was already deployed, moved all the stuff around from where my breezeway, where I normally parked and had food and everything there, and hosed the whole area down. The whole area. So there wouldn't be any scent of food or spray or anything like that. Well, I hadn't given up, because I talked to the other Marine, Don, the one that's got Riley. I talked to him, and I said, how do they do this? And he said, yeah, there's only two ones that work. One is over there by the swim pool. It won't reach. And the other one is over at the very end of building number 2. This is 2. Building number 3. See, I'm in building number 2. And that one over there is building number 3. And the one all the way as far in front is building 1. I told you it's odd. One, I don't know. North is that way. Dallas is that way. But anyways, where was I? I got distracted by a pretty kitty. I cleaned that whole area out, and with the broom, and everything, but it still needed water. It needed a water hose, really, because it's clumped cat litter and ashes and stuff like that. And it's not just for the cats. It's if you stand by that brick wall, I'll show a picture of it, and you're just chilling there by the thing, it smells like you're standing over cat box. And after doing all this, sweeping in there, moving all the leaves out, it still, smelled bad. So Don was saying, well, you're going to need 2 garden hoses. And I said, well, I don't know where another one is, but you know what? I know another way around this. Where there's a William, there's a way. 5-gallon bucket. Boy, that was an experience, transporting that on the electric scooter. Let's just say I got wet. Well, I didn't know you like to get wet. But, yeah, it spilled everywhere. But I got some borax, and I put it, sprinkle it on there thinking it would help. And after all that, it was cleaner, but it was still smelling like a cat box. And so I took a flashlight and looked. And what they had done, let's say that this is the bench, the picnic area. This was my mom's table. I just used it again. They went through right here, and then they went to the right, and they've got I don't know what size post, but it's a big post that goes through the center of this all the way up, right? And all the way down. But it's wide enough at the base for a cat to get through. So they've gone in there and they've crapped back in this area back here so much, it's about halfway up. And the only way to attack it, I got my entrenching tool out, but the best way is to like fire hose it, just get a garden hose and just spray. I don't want to make that sound because that's another thing. If you make certain sounds towards animals, they take it differently. Like I do freaky things sometimes, and if you do that, weird reaction when you're trying to train an animal to be domestic. But anyways, I'll upload those. The only accident we had last night was, since I don't have a litter box, she decided to pee on the Wooby because I thought at first, I've been going out in the rain. It rains a lot. I'm riding that thing with my poncho on, and I did think I had dropped it over here. Let me get up where we can see better. And the thing about Woobies are, you don't want to put them in a wash machine. I did that on a couple of them, and it'll mess up the piling and stuff in between it. You just got to let it get wet and drink, but it's just cat piss, you know. I mean, it does not like it's kitten piss, really. It wasn't a huge amount, but it's a little damp. Now the one below it is a real wool blanket. You can wash wool blankets and woolite and stuff like that. Just don't use high heat to dry it. But that's the only accident we had, and that's no big deal, you know. I mean, and people were saying when I was driving around, "Why are you gonna get wet?" It's only water, man. It dries off. I'm not afraid of riding around in a storm because of water. Lightning, however, I do respect lightning. They took out the PS3. Get the fish, get the fish. It's got like a rattle here in the end. All cats usually like that one, but she's using it kind of like a security blanket, comfy thing, you know. And I'm gonna send it with her. I'm not gonna send the mouse training, you know, the cat and mouse training thing, because it's kind of beat up and it's got a history. It's a stick, you know. It's not. It's homemade, and I'm trying to think of his name again. Scrappy. Scrappy, he's still kind of a kitten in his own way. When he's into it, I mean, you can tell the difference between father and son on these cats, because I was trying to say, you're supposed to be out here. You're the daddy, you know. You're supposed to be watching your kid, and really it's the mommy that teaches them how to hunt. But her mommy got snatched from her, and her siblings got snatched from her that are being played with. But anyways, because we're going to jump back to with Chad and everything, and John, because they are John, I don't think he's been in the military. He may have been, but if he was in the military, he's more like the officer type, because he thinks he's smart. Chad and me are more like the Chad is literally a grunt, but you know, he's not as bad as it seems when you get to know him. I knew this was going to happen. You know, anytime I dislike somebody intensely, rather than sitting there and like, oh God, we have so much in common. Like, he drives a motorcycle, I've driven a motorcycle. When you're old, one of the things that gets you is isolation. And I isolated myself because of secrets. I'm figuring it out what it is. I've held secrets for so long that there's no reason to. Or I've held on to things like not going over to my sister's events and everything, and missing out on all of my nieces and cousins because of my brother-in-law, because I don't like him. Well, you know what? That just makes it easy on him. I'm the one that's going to suffer because I don't get to see all them. My thing is, like I told Pam, when I don't like somebody, I don't like to pretend like I like them. And even for a day, if I go over there and prank, he's very good at acting friendly and pretending to be nice, but I know, I've seen the beast, you know? I know what the inner nature is, and it's not pretty. And I know what he did to my mom and how he treated her, and I know how he treated me, and, no, man, we ain't gonna have any pleasantries. I'll just not talk to you. How about that? I'll just ignore you. And that's the better way to do it, because otherwise you live in anger, and you live in, like, with Chad, you know, it's like, oh, Chad, he's down there drinking again and belching and making noise and listening to country and western music. And I'm trying to get to sleep. Well, you know, that's the window. You can hear, especially if you open it up, you can hear everything, even with the window closed. And if they're talking loud and the music, you know, here, what am I doing? I'm getting worked up. I'm getting angry. You know what a better answer is? If you can't beat them, join them. And the thing is, that was another issue with me, was country and western music. What was I holding on to that one for? Because I grew up in the 60s. The 60s, all you had was country and western. They were starting to get like beatniks, you know, but it was soul. Everybody was following the same musical genre. And when rock came along, it was different. And my dad, you know, it was like when you're a teenager, when you're growing up, you know, first you need your parents and they're attached to you. But as you get older, I've never had kids other than a stepson. they resist authority, and you're authority, you know. And my dad wanted me to be short hair and FFA, Future Farmer of America, redneck, and that's fine if you want to be that way. That's what Dad wanted in his life. Dad was a racist because his dad was a racist. I saw that was stupid. You know, we were in Houston. We were walking along and this was back when they had segregation, and they had two water fountains, and one said colored water, and the other one said whites. And I wanted to see the colored water because I thought it was coming out like a rainbow. That's my mentality of it. When they explained to me, no, that's for. It's like, why? What? Because your skin color is different, somehow it's going to contaminate by touching? You don't even touch a stream when it's water. I mean, with your mouth, it comes out. That's why it's a safety kind of pot. Yeah, the hand touches that, but they're just humans. I mean, other than if he just wiped his butt with his hands and you saw it, I wouldn't use that. I'd use a stick or something. But the water's going to be perfectly fine. And I did not understand that. And that's when there was a lot of, we had race kind of wars going on in our high school. The blacks and the whites. I did not join. The hippies. We didn't join into that shit. We grew our hair long and we did our thing, and we let them fight it out. And they would use like these hair combs, for afros, because back then they didn't have hair straightener and stuff. They would use those. And I don't know what it was. There was never guns and knives involved. We all had guns in our pickup trucks and access to all kinds of stuff, But it never dawned on us to just pack one and take out the opposing side. Like, hey, all right, next time we have a race war, we'll act like it's going to be this. But this time, let's bring our shit and open up on them and anybody else. That's what people do nowadays, except they don't do it as a group. It's just like an individual does that. But what has changed? I mean, I've got so much material that we can go on this stuff. And the problem is I'm talking too much. I got another hour of sleep. It was only because she was in here pissing on me. But it was raining. You got a kitten that's purring. And she wasn't right near me. She was further down. That's the difference between her and Scrappy. Scrappy I was laying here. He just came up from me laying on my side, and his whole length of it, full body, laid down there and started rubbing